Hey y'all, today we're discussing Helldivers 2, a little known game here recently that has exploded onto the scene. With around 400k players on Steam and God knows how many on the PS5, it's a multiplayer extraction style shooter where you fight against giant ass bugs and robots, or summon down napalm strikes by jets, and complete a variety of objectives to earn XP and money. So let's jump into it as I break down Helldivers 2 and give a quick view of its systems to see if it's worth playing or not. Alright, let's start with the missions that you'll be embarking on as you play Helldivers 2. These come in a decent variety and feature different types of gameplay depending on the mission. These can include extraction missions where you're extracting out civilians, egg missions where you're just blowing up eggs, or kill missions where you have to kill a certain amount of robots or bugs, whatever you're fighting. However, you could also be running literal nuke codes across the map and get to watch it explode as you fly off in your ship. All the missions feel actually really fun, and I haven't really gotten bored of them yet. Difficulty is also something that I wanted to mention. It overall feels pretty good, as you can decide what difficulty that you want to embark on before you start your mission. So this ranges from like 1 to I believe 9, and it does ramp up pretty quickly, and it does feel pretty good though. It feels fair, it feels pretty balanced. And some missions are just harder by design. You can sometimes just get overwhelmed in the extraction missions if you go on too long, and you're eventually just kind of forced out and you lose at that point. However, I never really felt cheated by the game if we lost. There were plenty of resources to win, so it mainly comes down to how you use them and how good of a player you actually are. Alright, and the next up is the weapons system. So weapons are broken down into 3 categories, being primary, sidearm, and special. Primaries and sidearms are self-explanatory, and special weapons are ones called in via the stratagem menu, which I will discuss more in depth a little bit later. Weapons themselves are unlocked through the Warbond system, or the game's version of the Battle Pass. Once again, I'll go over this later in the monetization section of this video. Thankfully though, these weapons are not purchasable with real money, purely unlocked through in-game means. Weapons feel good and sound really good, and overall feel really great to use, and unlocking them can take some time, as you have to earn enough of the Battle Pass currency to unlock them as well as progress in it to unlock them. However, once you learn to loot the map efficiently, the Battle Pass is unlocked pretty easily and pretty quickly. And just one more quick note that I wanted to say on the weapons system real quick that I don't think I've mentioned. There is a pretty good variety of weapons in this game. There is not a lot of repeat weapons or weapons that kind of like feel the same, and that is especially true for the special weapons. The special weapons feel really fun to use. There's a good variety of them as well. There's like a sniper rifle, there's a fucking laser cannon, there's a rocket launcher there's just so much variety there, and they all feel really fun to use, and I really do enjoy them. But with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about some of the gameplay and how it feels and how the direct actual interactions feel. The gameplay feels really great. Movement is smooth aside from jumping, which can be very annoying sometimes. It just kind of bugs out, and you moving over terrain is a little bit, obnoxious. But you can dolphin dive and you can shoot your weapon midair, which feels really, really cool, and it kind of reminds me of like a Max Payne where you can dive slow-mo through the air and shoot your weapons. The actual missions feel really fun. There's a good variety, as I mentioned earlier, and most of them are fun. However, the escort mission that I also mentioned earlier and the extraction missions can be very much a hassle. Gunplay is something that is also another plus, feeling very satisfying and weighty. All the weapons have a scope, so you can switch between a first and third person shooting. And speaking of that, this game definitely has one of the best implementations of third person shooting that I have seen so far in a PvE game. And since this game is purely PvE, the way that this functions is good and can happen because, it's not PvP. But there's a smaller circular reticle that helps you aim more precisely in third person, and it feels good just to help you land your shots a little bit better and easier, because it's almost like having aim tracking on a controller. But yeah, next let's move on to maps. Maps vary in size, but I think they all are proportioned very properly. They feel good to explore on the longer missions and dense enough on the shorter ones. This comes with the downside though that on larger maps, lower difficulties can feel a little bit empty. This is due to a lack of random encounters that are seen more frequently at higher difficulties due to the patrols and other gameplay factors that come into play when you're at a higher difficulty. There are also plenty of small outposts and little treasures to collect, such as samples or war bond medals, which I'll go in depth with those. Overall, the gameplay feels really fun and really well designed and polished in my own opinion. And just as a little continuation of the gameplay bit, let's go and talk about stratagems. So stratagems are kind of like abilities and kind of like kill streaks that you get to use in the game. They are unlocked via in-game currency, which is only earned by completing missions and barred by level requirements. There's a lot of variety ranging from airstrikes to napalm strikes or giant-ass laser beam that destroys everything that you throw it at. There are also character upgrades like backpacks or callable sentries if you want to cosplay Torbjorn from Overwatch. These can be upgraded and modified, which takes us into our next topic, which is ship customization. So, ship customization, or lack thereof. Sadly, there is no cosmetic ship customization, which really doesn't matter because you only see it in cutscenes and stuff, but it would be fun to change up the interior of the ship to make it personal and give it your own kind of flair. They could do something like give different models with different layouts, which would be really cool to see. It could totally be upgraded, it could totally just be a Destiny type system, preferably without microtransactions, but mostly your ship functions as upgrades to your stratagems. You can do things like give your sentries increased tracking or more ammo, or increase the number of charges your orbital strikes have. Pretty simple overall, nothing gameplay changing, but fun nonetheless. The only downside I see is their cost, which is actually quite expensive to actually purchase the upgrades, as they are done through the samples you will find while exploring. These come in decent enough bundles if you explore enough, but it can be a bit grindy if you want to unlock all of the upgrades, which there are a lot of them. And it would take you quite some time to do so, which to me is a good or a bad thing depending on your preference. I personally kind of see it as a good thing because it gives a little bit more longevity to the game and gives more meaning behind the upgrades that you choose. So anyway, moving on, you have the armor system, which is actually really simple. So armor choice doesn't really matter aside from the few stats that they give. Mainly these are movement speed differences really, and along with a couple little special effects, but pretty much all the armor is normalized across the board for each respective type, being light, medium, and heavy. You also, of course, have helmets and capes, however their stats are also normalized, and they do not have different categories. So armor is almost purely cosmetic, and it is purely cosmetic if you really don't give a shit about metagaming, which personally is how I look at it. Pretty much all armor sets are earned through the Warbond system, with some only being purchasable through the Super Credit store, which I would discuss it with monetization. But this means that there is no advantage to buying armor or having premium armor with the Battle Pass, which is a great thing to see. And speaking of monetization, let's go ahead and talk about it. With this being a live service game comes some kind of monetization, as you were probably expecting. It's just the industry that we live in nowadays. But I'm glad to say that Helldivers features some of the fairest monetization that I have seen in quite some time from a video game. First, you have the super credits, or premium currency that you can purchase. These come pretty cheap actually, but the max pack being 2,000 for $20, so that equals about $1 for 100 credits. And each item in the super credit shop has only ranged from about 75 to 250 credits for a single item, so it's not really that bad. Then there is the Warbond system, which I have mentioned before in this video. This is the game's Battle Pass, and it is actually pretty good. It's a mixture of a COD and a Halo Battle Pass where you choose the items you want with a currency that you collect through in-game means, and you can never lose your Battle Pass, and you can go back and complete them retrospectively as the seasons go on. Premium Warbond's weapons and armor, as mentioned before, give no kind of gameplay advantage, as well as store credit store items give no kind of gameplay advantage. It's great to see a fair monetization system from the start, and it gives me a lot of faith behind the team, but there is very little pressure to actually purchase because through the Battle Pass system, you actually earn enough credits to purchase the Premium Warbond if you complete it. So there is very little pressure for you to purchase any kind of extra Superstore credits unless you want the extra cosmetics. Alright, so and just a couple more things that I wanted to go over, and this is just a couple complaints that I had and just general things that are kind of came to mind as I was taking notes about the game and things I would like to potentially see changed in the future. So constant server issues have been an issue, but it seems to have been solved as of yesterday. I haven't had any queue times for the past few days, and they have finally added in a AFK timer, so that seemed to solve a lot of the issues. And it's great to see that they are bringing in more developers and stuff to help solve this issue, more engineers, and it's good to see that the issue actually has been resolved in a pretty timely manner. Another thing that kind of has been an issue for me is vaulting, or trying to climb over some of the terrain has been an absolute pain in the ass. I don't know what kind of bug it is, but it just doesn't feel right sometimes and can be a real bitch to contend with. Hackers are another thing that I'm starting to see kind of pop up, at least on viral videos and stuff of people hacking the game. I don't know how prevalent they are in the game because I personally don't think I have seen a hacker yet, but they are honestly really funny to see because they're just unleashing absolute hell on some of the hardest enemies in the game and just shooting off unlimited like rockets and stuff, or just doing crazy stuff, and they're honestly pretty funny. But obviously I don't want to see hackers in the game, which, you know, but they can do some pretty fun stuff. But overall, I am really enjoying this game. It feels so fun, especially if you have some friends to play with. And I have even enjoyed playing it solo. It's a really fun challenge to take on and try and complete the objectives alone, as they are actually pretty challenging, especially at the higher levels if you're solo. And I cannot wait to see some talented players take on some high level shit solo. It's going to be really awesome to see. And I haven't gotten bored yet. Even playing with randoms has been a lot of fun. It's kind of brought me back to like the old school days of like the Xbox 360, with a bunch of stupid motherfuckers just yelling into a microphone while defending democracy. It's kind of beautiful, and it's just pure bliss to see something so polished come out. And, you know, we haven't had that in quite some time. We've seen it from some smaller developers, but like a bigger AAA game, I can't recall the last time that we've seen such a polished one, besides maybe something like Baldur's Gate 3. But it's been like 3 years in early access. This game did not, so it's a little bit different. But it's great to see something that is so polished and so well made. And I really hope this is something that is the future of live service gaming. I hope we can get games like this from smaller studios. And 2024 so far has been a really good year for gaming, at least in the indie and AA game kind of studio place. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one, where I'm probably going to be talking about Palworld.